Hi guys, hope you're well. It's Monday morning and I'm now off to the gym. So I like to get to the gym around 6:30 in the morning, and the main reason is because the vast majority of my work is now online, doing the online coaching and selling various other products I have on my website. The way I see it is the earlier I get to the gym, the sooner I get back home and I can then start working on the business. So with regards to my nutrition before I went to the gym, all I had was 2.5 scoops of whey protein, 5 grams of creatine, and then a banana. So very simple, not a huge amount of food. And the reason why is just because I'm training early in the morning, I generally can't stomach that much food. I'm training weaker body parts once again. This is the first session of the week, so it's going to be shoulders, back and arms. It's going to be some similar exercises to the session you saw in the second vlog, I believe, but this time I'm doing standing overhead press as my main key shoulder exercise, whereas before I was doing the seated. I'm going to discuss more about the session afterwards, a little bit more in detail about pre and post workout nutrition. I'll speak to you after the training session. hopefully you enjoyed the gym footage. So that was actually a really tough session because basically my gym's air conditioning wasn't working. As you know, this weekend in particular and today it's been extremely hot, so having zero aircon, it was really busy in the gym as well. God, there was absolutely, it was extremely hot. It was like the bloody Sahara Desert. But really enjoyed the session nonetheless. So hopefully you've enjoyed the footage. One thing I noticed I'm going to try and improve upon with my standing overhead press, you could probably tell that my hips were a little bit too far back. The real key with the overhead press is you're trying to keep a straight line from your shoulders, from your hips to your ankles. But the problem I was finding is I've just got that tendency for my hips just to be a little bit too far back. So that's the tip for you guys. If you're doing any standing overhead press, focus on shoulders, hips, ankles, all in a straight line. In addition to that, you're really focusing on bracing your core like you would do if you were doing, say, a squat or a deadlift. So you're actually having a big deep breath, you're then pushing your stomach out. So as I've discussed in a video I think I did last week, you're imagining someone's going to punch you in the stomach. That is the braced position you need to be in. You're squeezing your abdominals, you press the weight over your head, then you breathe out, and then you're going to repeat the process. So what I thought I'd do is briefly discuss the session. As you remember last week I was talking about, I was unsure what percentage based program to follow for some of my big key lifts. I think what I've decided to do for my overhead press and seated overhead press is just going to stay with straight sets until the muscle building phase. So basically I'm going to do 5 sets of 3 to 5 repetitions, and basically the goal is to try and get to 5 sets of 5 with any given weight. As soon as I can do that, I'm going to then increase the weight the following week. So for example, if I get 5, 5, 5, 3, 3, I will then stay with that weight the following week until I can get 3 sets of 5, and then I'll increase again. But as I said, when I go to the muscle building program, that's when I'll start doing a percentage based program. The main reason is I'm just not as strong since coming back from holiday, and I kind of feel like I can quickly regain that lost strength via straight sets, and then when I get to the muscle building phase I can focus on a percentage based program, just because with the percentage based program you're still focusing on strength gains. It's a much slower process, whereas with straight sets I feel like I can quickly get back to where I was previously before the holiday. Now, as I discussed within the video prior to the training session, I said I was going to briefly discuss pre and post workout nutrition, and arguably this is one of the biggest myths within the fitness industry today, and the reality is it doesn't matter as much as you first believe. And one of the reasons why is we need to firstly look at our hierarchy of importance. So as I discussed first, we need to make sure we're meeting total calorie, protein, carbohydrate and fat targets by the end of the day. That needs to be #1 priority, because that is the biggest determining factor for influencing body composition. So if you're not actually tracking your food intake and you're focusing on your perfect pre and post workout meal, then you're missing the forest for the trees. You're focusing on the minor details, pre and post workout nutrition, but you're missing the bigger picture. The bigger picture is hitting daily total calorie and macronutrient targets, and if you're not doing that already, I would suggest doing that first. Now, with that being said, once we have that in place, the second thing to consider is context, and that is if you're a trainee that trains twice per day within 8 hours, so for example an endurance trainee, timing of meals between session 1 and session 2 and what you consume between session 1 and session 2 is important, because things like speed of glycogen resynthesis are important for that individual to be able to replenish glycogen for session 2. However, for those individuals that are just training once per day, like myself, like people probably listen to this video, or people just doing weight training, a small amount of cardio, glycogen resynthesis will take care of itself if your next session is the next day, with the caveat you consume sufficient carbohydrates. So that's really a secondary concern. Now, with that being said, I would still suggest consuming some food pre and post workout, probably anywhere between 1 to 3 hours pre-workout, 1 to 3 hours post-workout. And I'd probably suggest some protein and carbohydrates, and a good ballpark figure is approximately 25% of your protein intake before the session and after the session. So for me, I consume 200 grams of protein. As such, I'll have 50 grams before I train, and then 50 grams within 1 to 3 hours afterwards. The other point to consider is if you're consuming a pre-exercise meal 1 to 3 hours prior to training, there's still going to be nutrients being absorbed during the session and also after the session itself. So again, this puts that importance of that post-exercise meal into context. You can just see it's not as important because of those factors, because we're consuming sufficient calories and macronutrients by the end of the day, we're not training twice per day, and we're consuming a pre-exercise meal. Now that being said, I would still suggest having some protein, carbohydrates, maybe the carbohydrates as well, approximately 25% pre and post within 1 to 3 hours before and after the training. Additionally, with regards to spiking insulin, this is another fitness myth. So firstly, it's important to note that protein is insulinogenic, so just by having protein pre and post workout, you're going to get a small spike anyway. But in addition to that, if you have a pre-exercise meal, insulin levels are going to be above fasting levels during the session and for several hours post-workout again. So again, it just puts that post-workout meal into context. But in short, focus on your daily totals first, then once you have that in, some general recommendations: 25% of your protein intake pre and post, and the same with your carbohydrates. With regards to fat, let your personal preference dictate when you consume this throughout the day. Now you'll hear some people say that fat post-workout can slow gastric emptying, but the reality is that would only be important for someone training twice per day, that kind of speed of glycogen resynthesis. So that isn't a concern. So hopefully it's been useful. I think I've dragged this on a little bit too much, but hopefully it's given you a little bit of insight into pre and post workout nutrition, and I'll look forward to speaking to you in the next video or vlog. Okay, thank you very much. I'll speak to you soon.